Title: The Reflection. In the quaint town of Hollow's End, nestled deep in the fog-laden woods, strange occurrences were a mere whisper among the locals, tales of flickering lights and doors that creaked open at odd hours. Laura, an adventurous 16-year-old with a knack for exploring the unknown, had always been intrigued by these stories. They were mere ghost tales to her friend, Mia, but to Laura, they were invitations to discover something extraordinary. One Friday night, while the rain pattered against her bedroom window, Laura stumbled across an ancient-looking mirror in the attic of her family's old Victorian house. The frame was intricately carved with strange symbols, its surface fogged like a window on a chilly day. Laura wiped it clean, revealing not only her reflection but also something else, something breathtaking. In the mirror, the world flickered and twisted. Instead of her own room, she saw a vibrant landscape. Fields of luminous flowers with colors she couldn't name, skies painted in shades that drifted between twilight and dawn, and in the distance, a towering, spiraling castle that seemed to shimmer with otherworldly light. It was beautiful yet eerie. Mesmerized, Laura reached out, her fingertips brushing against the glass. Without warning, the image shifted. The once inviting colors darkened to oppressive grays, with shadows enveloping the landscape. Figures flickered in and out of sight, distorted like reflections in a funhouse mirror. They wailed with a sound that chilled Laura to the bone, a haunting echo that reverberated in her mind. She recoiled, heart racing, and pulled her hand back. Despite the dread curling in her stomach, curiosity gnawed at her. When Mia arrived the next day, Laura spoke excitedly about the mirror. "We should explore it together." Mia hesitated. "What if it's dangerous, Laura? Just think about what we could find." "An alternate reality," Laura exclaimed, her eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. After much convincing, Mia finally agreed. They returned to the attic that night, shoving aside dust-laden boxes and crumbling papers. The air was thick with anticipation. The moment they stood before the mirror, the world inside flickered anew, beckoning them closer. With hands clasped tightly together, they took a deep breath and stepped through the frigid barrier of glass. The sensation was like plunging into icy water. Their bodies tingled and twisted. When they landed, they were not in the vibrant landscape Laura had first seen. Instead, they stood in a distorted reflection of Hollow's End, darker, more sinister. The streetlights flickered, casting glimmers over abandoned shops and deadened trees that swayed with a wind that seemed to whisper their names. Where are we?" Mia stammered, looking around wide-eyed. "I don't know," Laura replied, her voice trembling. Shadows moved in their peripheral vision, retreating the moment they turned to catch them. Panic gnawed at them now, but they pressed on, curiosity battling fear. They wandered through the twisted streets until they heard laughter, childish and echoing, but with a sinister edge. The source was a group of children playing in a glowing, unnatural field. They beckoned to Laura and Mia, their smiles wide and teeth sharp. "Come play with us," one child called, tilting their head unnaturally. With a rush of instinct, the girls turned and ran, the laughter morphing into shrill cries, chasing them through the darkness. They stumbled through the streets, desperate to find a way back. Every turn led to another shadowy figure, every window revealed eyes watching them intently. "Laura, we need to get back to the mirror," Mia gasped, fear flooding her voice. They ran, but as they reached the alley where they thought the mirror stood, the glass was gone. Only a brick wall remained, cold and rough. Panic set in, breathing grew heavy, and the shadows crowded closer. With a surge of adrenaline, Laura remembered the symbols on the mirror. "The frame. It has to be here," she shouted, scanning frantically. As they backtracked, the shadows grew bolder, whispering their fears into their minds, feeding on their desperation. But then, in a small nook, Laura's fingertips brushed against the familiar carvings. "Here!" she yelled, and together they began to trace the symbols with shaking hands. With a burst of energy they hadn't known they possessed, the symbols glowed brightly, illuminating their surroundings. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as if burned by light. But the ground beneath them began to tremble. "Hold on," Mia cried, grasping Laura's wrist, and in a flash of brilliant light, they were sucked back through the mirror's barrier. They tumbled onto the attic floor with a thud, gasping for breath. The mirror stood silent and dark, seemingly undisturbed by their ordeal. "Oh my God," Mia whispered, "what just happened?" "I told you to be careful," Laura replied shakily, tears of relief and fear mingling down her cheeks. The mirror may no longer radiate dangers, but that night, they learned that some realities are best left unexplored. They had brushed too close to a darkness that lingered just beyond the borders of their own. Hollow's End would always harbor secrets, some hidden better left undisturbed.